It's time to face the facts about AT&T. We're going to be talking about the terminology that AT&T sales reps use, and we're going to be comparing that with what it actually means. And I came to this realization by reading some of the comments in the previous video that I released about AT&T. So I thank you for leaving those comments. I really learn a lot from them, and I appreciate that support. So feel free to leave comments and subscribe also. That would help me out tremendously as well. But it's like there's two languages. First, there's normal English, the language that a person would use if they're just trying to communicate an idea from one person to another in the most efficient way. And then there's AT&T language. And that's a language that uses terminology to misdirect people if possible in order to promote their own agenda. So my first example of this, and this is a direct quote, and the reason I have a direct quote is because I recorded the conversation that I had with the last AT&T sales rep. And I did this not only so I could have direct quotes, but also just in case people want to deny the things that I'm saying like they did in the last video. I have evidence that yes, this is actually what they're saying. So the quote was, and this was answering the question of what is the port-in credit? And this is how they answered that question. It says you have to port over your number from whichever carrier you're with into a new phone from us to get the $7 off. So I really want to emphasize the part about the new phone from us, and they don't really emphasize that. But the new phone from us, the new phone from AT&T, you have to get a new phone from AT&T in order to qualify for that port-in credit. So that requires you to either pay for that phone out of your pocket, just buy it outright and pay for it out of your pocket, or you sign up for an installment plan, which locks you in, and now you're committed to AT&T. So if you don't want to either buy a phone off them and pay for it out of your pocket or lock yourself in by signing up for an installment plan, then you have to pay more to be with AT&T, to join AT&T, because you're not going to get the port-in credit. And I had people leaving comments in my last video when I was explaining what the port-in credit really was this way. And they said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. All you have to do to get the port-in credit is switch from another carrier over to AT&T. And I get, though, why people would think that. Because when they emphasize the part about switching over from another carrier, instead of emphasizing the part that, no, you have to get a phone off of us in order to get this, people don't come away realizing that if you don't want to basically lock yourself in, because they know that really paying for the phone out of your pocket isn't that wise of a decision. It's just not that good of a deal for a phone if you're paying for it out of your pocket. So they're banking on people actually signing up for an installment plan and locking themselves in. But if you don't want to do that, now you have to pay more money for a cell phone service from them. I'm not aware of other companies that are actually doing the same thing of charging you more if you don't want to get a phone off of them. I'm not aware of that. And maybe there are companies out there, but I still think that this is a unique thing. So if we're leaving comments saying, well, AT&T isn't doing anything different from any of the other companies, I'm not sure that those people understand really what the port-in credit was. So I stand by everything that I've said in my previous video. Secondly, AT&T sales reps will say, you're getting this offer because you're a Sam's Club member, or because you've been a Sam's Club member for less than 2 years. Apparently, you'd get a different offer if you were a Sam's Club member for more than 2 years. So they're trying to make you think that you're getting this great deal because of something about you, when the truth of the matter is, For whatever incentive they're offering you, they're asking back something in return if you understand the rest of the stipulations. So just like the point that we've already talked about, that $7 incentive of the port-in credit that they were talking about, what they're asking back in return is that you have to buy your phone off of them, right? And you either buy that phone with your loyalty by locking yourself in, or you pay for it out of your pocket. So they're asking something back in return. And these other offers where they offer you more than $7, if you read the stipulations, you find out that they're also asking more back in return. And so that takes us into the 25-month expiration. In a previous video, I talked about the 25-month expiration of the port-in credit. And I've received a lot of criticism in the comments because even though at the time that was currently what they were offering, that 25-month expiration has since been discontinued, at least for now. So people not seeing that they were still offering the same number of months criticize that. However, in the conversation that I just had with an AT&T sales rep, the sales rep was telling me why the current $7 port-in credit was actually better than the previous port-in credits that they offered that had a higher incentive. And again, it had to do with the 25-month expiration on the port-in credit that they were offering previously. And another thing he told me that I didn't even understand. I mean, I understood why that 25-month expiration on the port-in credit was no good. But another thing he told me that I didn't understand was if I would have signed up for it, and I didn't because I realized that it wasn't a good deal. Even with the higher incentive, it was not a good deal. And I received a lot of criticism from people saying, oh no, there's no way that you would have ever gotten an offer that was that good. Well, the point of my video basically was saying it's not a good deal. So that argument kind of makes no sense. They were basically arguing there's no way you would have ever gotten an incentive that was that high, that had that big of a discount, right? But the point of my video was saying, well, even though they were offering this large incentive, it still wasn't worth it because of the other stipulations behind it. However, one of the stipulations that I didn't understand that this AT&T sales rep actually filled me in on, in hindsight, looking back, and this is people who agreed for that deal with the 25-month expiration of their port-in credit. Not only did they have that, but I was thinking, and so did a lot of other people, that when they requalified for their next port-in credit, that it would be the same amount of incentive. But the AT&T sales rep was saying, no, yeah, you're going to get another port-in credit when you requalify for it by buying another phone off of AT&T. However, it wasn't going to be the same amount. It's going to be whatever amount they're offering at the time. So all the people who signed up for a port-in credit of a higher incentive and then they requalify for that port-in credit later on by signing up for another installment plan or buying another phone out of pocket again, they requalify for it, but they're not going to get the same amount of incentive because it could be an incentive that's lower that they're offering at the time. Fourth, let's talk about this installment credit and what it actually is. The way that it comes across when the AT&T sales reps explain it is that you get that installment credit for trading in your phone, and they really emphasize that. And that's kind of a misdirection because there's a much bigger issue at play, and it's kind of a non-issue because they're forcing you to buy a new phone anyway if you want to get the port-in credit, and you can't carry two phones in your pocket. So you'd either have to sell the other one on eBay or keep it as a backup or give it away or something. So it's kind of like a non-issue that they're focusing on, where there's a really much bigger issue at play here. What they're really asking back in return if you're going to get that installment credit is that you're being locked in. Because if you leave AT&T, if you decide to leave, now you have to finish paying that phone off out of your own pocket. And I received a comment in my last video saying, no, you're wrong in how you're explaining the installment credit. Actually, all you have to do is trade in your old phone. You give them a phone, they'll give you a phone. No, but that's not true. That's not what the installment credit is. In order to get the installment credit, you have to stay with AT&T. Fifth, when I asked the AT&T sales rep if I would still be able to get the port-in credit if I didn't get one of their phones, they responded a lot of times by saying, oh, you mean if you bring your own phone? And that terminology is just kind of strange to me as far as what it's actually saying, bring your own phone. And there's two things that I could think of that's actually saying. And one is that they're insinuating that you only have two options because you're going to buy the phone and you're going to sign up for the plan right there and then. So there's only two options. You either have to use the phone that's right there in your pocket right now and bring that, or you get a phone off of them. There's only two options because you're going to sign up right there and then. This is a high pressure sales situation. So possibly that's the one thing that's indicating. I don't really think that's it though. I think it's the other thing is that they're grouping all the other ways of acquiring a phone together into one category. So in other words, you have to do this weird thing to not qualify for the port-in credit. And that weird thing is getting your phone from anybody else in the world but them. So then another example, I was talking to an AT&T salesperson and I said, well, you're trying to lock me in with this. And the answer was, no, you can leave at any time. And again, in normal English, the answer would have been, yes, we are trying to lock you in. But in AT&T language, they say, no, you can leave at any time, I guess meaning that you can leave at any time if you're willing to fork out enough money to be able to leave, which isn't what people are really thinking about in the context of just trying to communicate the normal ideas. So at this point, this is where I start feeling that I'm dealing with some sort of cult that's trying to pull something over on me. And I know that with the thumbnail for my last video, maybe that puts some people on the defensive, and that may have explained some things as how it was received. But I'm not going to make a video less sensational than what the situation actually is, just so it doesn't put people on the defensive, because there really seem to be a lot of similarities between a cult and what's going on here with AT&T. So the other one, the second one I'm going to mention, is that it is easy to get into. They're oh, it's so easy, just sign up for this, but then hard to get out of because it's going to cost you a lot of money if you wanted to leave. And of course, with the 36-month expiration of the port-in credit that they have now, that isn't much different than what the other companies are offering. True, but they're still locking you in, and so that's one similarity, but of easy to get into, but hard to get out of if for some reason you decided that you wanted to make a move. And another thing is control by fear and intimidation, because they tried telling me if you don't get a new phone, a new 5G phone, your 4G phone's going to stop working. And I lived half my life, and I think everyone was happier before anyone had cell phones. I think we were all happier. And now they're using that to try to intimidate you, saying, oh, you're going to be stuck somewhere without a cell phone unless you get a phone from us, a 5G phone. And that raises another issue, is that they're also, not only are they charging you more money if you don't want to be locked in, but they're also charging you more money if you don't want to have a 5G phone. If you want to stick with your 4G phone, they're going to be charging you more money. And so that gets into another issue of how really this should be a risk versus benefit type situation on the person. And should it really be influenced by companies are going to charge you more money if you're maybe not comfortable and you'd like to just stay with the 4G phone? But no, companies are going to actually charge you more money if you want to keep and hold on to your 4G phone. So this fear and intimidation, oh, if you don't switch to 5G, your phone's going to stop working. That's not very realistic. And that's another point similar to cults. They're trying to get you to ignore reality itself, is that 4G penetrates much better than 5G. And there's places where even 4G struggles to give you good reception. And that's just reality. And they want you to ignore all that to think that, oh, it's imminent. 4G is going to be done away with and you're going to be like out there without a phone. So not only are they controlling by fear and intimidation, they're trying to get you to ignore the very fabric of reality itself. And they're also trying to confuse you. These offers are just very confusing. So that's another similarity with a cult. And I didn't even go into the next up and how the next up actually applies, especially if you want to look into the next up and how that interacts with this 25-month expiration. I understand all that, but if I tried to explain that to you, I mean, people would be saying, why are you talking so confusing? Well, I wasn't the one that made up all these stipulations and things that you can pay for or decide not to pay for and everything. That's all involved in that. So yes, it's also very confusing. And the first time that I heard about this, it was a good deal. It really happened. And I received that criticism saying that, oh, you're crazy. This never happened to you. You never had such a good deal offered to you. But I absolutely did. And I'm putting good in air quotes, I guess. You never had such a good deal offered to you. You couldn't have. But I absolutely did. And that's what actually made me take another trip. I was at Sam's Club. I didn't really have time to get all the information because I had to do something. Myself and Beth, we took an extra trip because it was a this weekend only offer that they were offering, and we were interested in it. And we finally really looked into it to understand all the stipulations of what it was. And we found out that it really wasn't that good of a deal after we understood all the stipulations. But for those comments that are saying, oh, this never happened, there was no way you were ever offered a deal that was that good. I mean, I wouldn't have taken an extra trip if it didn't sound like a good deal to Sam's Club with Beth just to see if I could sign up for it the next day, because this offer, they told me, was a this weekend only offer. I didn't understand at first. That makes no sense. You're just going to charge me more if I don't take a cell phone off of you. But once I understood it and once I wasn't confused anymore, I realized they're charging you more because they're not locking you in. They're going to charge you a premium fee if you want to avoid being locked in. And so then that made sense. I wasn't confused anymore. But these stipulations are so confusing. And that's how they try to pull things over on you, because they just have all these confusing things that they say. And then the secrecy is the sixth similarity then between a cult and AT&T. Is once I finally understood and the light bulb went off and I understood how this all worked, I started pointing to their tablet, which they just do this on the tablet and it spits out a number, and they don't really explain like what's all involved in that number and how it works and everything. But it's kind of on there, and when I actually saw that and understood how it worked, I started pointing to their tablet saying, see, this is how it works. You get this credit for this and you get that credit for that. And I accidentally touched the tablet, and they pulled the tablet away from me so I couldn't look at it anymore. And they said, well, no one's allowed to touch our tablet. And so why all the secrecy? Why all the secrecy is it's like they want you to think that the tablet just kind of spits out numbers, and they really don't want you to understand how it all works and what they're really offering. So they want you to buy now before you really understand all the stipulations of what you're actually signing up for. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up and check out some of the other videos that are on the screen right now on similar topics. And thanks for watching this video all the way to the end.